Thank you. I'll continue on, since we started talking about cybersecurity, I'll jump to that question. Obviously, it's a big issue, becoming bigger, and I think we're going to learn, unfortunately, maybe in a dramatic fashion, how critical it is to us right now. I co-sponsored a bill last Congress with Congressman McCall called the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act. We're going to be introducing that again. And among other things, it will require a federal strategy for assessing cyber threats and coordinate cyber R&D to address these threats. Part of the 2013 PCAST report on NITRD recommended greater coordination among agencies on cybersecurity R&D. In what ways do you think, you touched on this a little bit, what ways do you think the federal government could better coordinate research efforts in cybersecurity? Dr. Lazowska?
One comment I'd make is that all of these studies have found that NITRD is one of the most successful coordination efforts. So I think we have to state that at the outset. In cybersecurity, there's a particular challenge because of classification. And I think an important issue is attempting to distill the essence of classified problems so that a broader range of investigators can work on them. All right? So many universities, most universities don't do classified research, but many of the best cybersecurity researchers are in universities. I know that DARPA has worked on this. The National Science Foundation, of course, supports a large number of research programs in sort of the unclassified core of cybersecurity, but honestly, it's an area that needs a better research workforce as well as a better practitioner workforce. I'd like to mention one additional reason why this is so important, and that is every aspect of our nation's critical infrastructure is now controlled by computer systems, right? So this, just 10 years ago, was much less so for, let us say, the power grid, right? These days, all of these are complex, interconnected systems subject to attack from information technology in ways that can actually damage hard-to-replace physical infrastructure. So we truly do need more communication and collaboration among the agencies. The senior steering group that NITRD has created in the past couple of years since the 2010 report has gone a long way towards addressing the coordination issues.
Any other comments? Move on. Okay, all of you are computer scientists. I actually have a background as an engineer, but also then with the dark side got my PhD in political science. So I'm also a social scientist. In your testimonies, you all discussed the need for computer scientists to collaborate with social scientists to address many of the scientific and technological challenges. Can you elaborate on the role of social and behavioral scientists do and should play in NIT R&D? And are there sufficient federal mechanisms to support multidisciplinary collaboration among computer scientists, engineers, and social scientists? Let me say that I know there's a lot of bad social science research out there, but I think, unfortunately, it is all getting lumped together and attempted to be thrown out. But can you talk to the role that social and behavioral scientists can play in IT R&D? Dr. McKinley?
So humans interact with computers. So if we don't understand how humans want to interact with them, if we don't understand the social sciences, if it's not a collaboration, we can't make IT work for people because it's about the people. And yes, there's bad research in every area, unfortunately, but there's mostly good research. And a great example is health. If you want to make people or if you want to use your cell phone that you're carrying around to help you be healthier, we might want to remind you to take a walk or eat better, but we don't want you to, and we need to understand how those hints help you, or maybe they discourage you and you get mad at your phone and you stop doing it. So some of these like basic issues on how you use IT for health require both doctor collaboration, user interface, and people who understand how human beings make decisions.
Dr. Gaither?
So to further that point, visualization is all about really verifying visualizations. We can't really do that quantifiably right now. So we do them with user studies because visualization is about how people perceive the images that they're seeing. I also want to address the point about the interdisciplinary research. So I do think that there is a frightening shortage of funding going into interdisciplinary research. And let me say, while it's maybe a little cliche, the sum of putting people together from different backgrounds really is greater than the individual parts. And I think the magic happens when you put people together from very different backgrounds working towards a common goal.
Mr. Chairman, I always have to mention, I do mention I have 2 degrees in engineering, but I always have to say that my wife has a degree in math, so we cover a few of the STEM fields there. I want to give Dr. Lazowska his opportunity here to do his very short version of walking us through the something you had mentioned, talking about the technologies that Apple pulled together to develop the iPad, how they originated with federal research investment. So you're going to get 4 minutes to do this. We've had this done. You posted a briefing before for the committee on this, but can you give us a short version right now? Just show us how federal research wound up in this device.
Thank you so much. Here's just a couple examples. The multi-touch interface, this is the sort of zoom with your fingers, goes back to federally supported research. And in fact, in the late 1990s, Apple acquired a company spun out from the University of Delaware with federal funding in which this multi-touch gestural interface work was done. And that became the interface on the original iPhone and now on the iPad. That's one example. One of the great things about this device is the suite of sensors. There's GPS, there's a compass, things like that tell you where you are, make driving directions work in your GPS unit or in your iPad or iPhone or Windows Phone, I have to say. And these sensors go back to physics research in the 1930s, right, which led to things like the atomic clocks, which make the satellites work, and eventually the GPS that we deployed in satellites. The miniaturization driven through the NITRD program of these components makes it possible to put it in a phone or a device like this. Academic and industry research, much of the academic research funded by the federal government, has changed the way we design integrated circuits and the very architecture of the microprocessors. This is Dr. McKinley's, one of her specialties. But we design microprocessors, including the one in this device, in an entirely different way to an entirely different architecture than we were doing before the NITRD investment. I could go on, and I appreciate the opportunity, but the important thing is the ideas in this device go back, in some cases, the basic research 80 years.
Thank you. And maybe we could do another, maybe come in again. There's some new members of the committee, maybe come in and give the extended version of
We'd welcome the opportunity. Thank you.
Since you didn't take up all the 4 minutes, I wanted to throw out another question, just in general, about ideas about how can MOOCs help to help STEM education. How do you see those? What's your briefly? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. McKinley?
So the reason the jury's out on MOOCs is because we know that interactive activities with a great teacher who inspires you, with someone who sees what you're doing wrong as you try to work the problem, is one of the most effective ways to get people excited and to educate them. So my kids are seeing a flipped classroom right now where you have a lecture from your regular teacher, and then in the classroom you're doing the example problems or working through a worksheet, and so then the teacher is watching you. So I feel like that's probably the most effective way that we're going to see MOOCs. So you have the best lecture in the world. So people have polished this to be perfect, and then you have tutors or your teacher is now doing the hands-on, watching how you understood what kind of educational experience that you need, because although many computer science lectures have just the professor talking at the front of the room, that's not where you really learn how to do computer science. So it has to be a mix of these different learning styles, and MOOCs, I think, are going to have a role, perhaps mostly in lifelong learning with very motivated people who already learned their learning style, but I think in terms of MOOCs having a huge effect on my 11-year-old, I don't think that's going to motivate him to do his math homework.
I think there's a lot more to say here, but just for my colleagues, I think may have some questions. I'm going to yield back right now, and hopefully we could come back to this at another time.